The 2021 Korea-Africa Business Forum being held today is being held both online and offline at the same time. Through the online live broadcast, we will also try to give you a sense of the field. The 2021 Korea-Africa Business Forum today will be interpreted into 3 languages, and it will be live streamed on the Korea-Africa Foundation YouTube channel. And those who are present here offline, you may use the interpretation receiver. Korean is channel 1, English channel 2, French is channel 3. And for the presentation materials today, you will be able to download them through the QR code on the program book, pages 36 and 37. Thank you very much. 네, 잠시. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the 2021 Korea-Africa Business Forum will be starting at 4:30. I would like to ask everyone to please take your seats. And the online participants, let me ask for your attention on the screen. The 2021 Korea-Africa Business Forum being held today will be broadcast online and offline at the same time. Through the online live broadcast, we will try to give you a sense of the field. The 2021 Korea-Africa Business Forum today is being interpreted into 3 languages, Korea, English, and French, and it is being live streamed on the Korea Africa Foundation YouTube channel. Those who are on site, you may use the interpretation receiver. Korean is channel 1, English is channel 2, and French is channel 3. And the presentation materials today can be found and downloaded through the QR code that you can find on the pages 36 and 37 of the program book.
네, 먼저
Allow me to greet everyone. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I see that we have such a big turnout today, both online and offline. I would like to thank you very much for your presence today. And let me introduce myself. I am Park Sang-yeon, your MC for today. Thank you very much. Yes, today we are here at this meaningful and very important forum. I would like to thank and welcome you all. Now, the 2021 Africa Korea Business Forum is being held under the theme of Integrated Africa New Era for a Transformative Partnership. The 2021 Korea Africa Business Forum is being held online as well in accordance with the health protocols. And also on site, we have the minimum number of participants, including Korean speakers, so we ask for understanding. And this event is being live streamed on the Korea Africa Foundation YouTube channel in 3 languages, Korean, English, and French. And those who are on site, you may use the interpretation receiver. Korean is channel 1, English channel 2, and French is channel 3. And before we begin the main event, some housekeeping remarks, please. For those who are participating both online and offline, we have the satisfaction survey. And those who are on site, please respond to the survey that you can find in the program book, and please submit them to the registration desk. And also, those who are participating online, we also have the survey URL in the real-time chat room, so please take some time out to respond to the survey. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll begin the opening ceremony of the 2021 Korea Africa Business Forum. Now, we would like to first invite the president of Korea Africa Foundation, Ambassador Eun Gi-lyo, to deliver the opening remarks.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to meet you. I would like to sincerely welcome all the participants joining us for the 2021 Korea-Africa Business Forum. Thank you for attending despite your busy schedules. Honorable Vice Minister Choi Jong-mun of Foreign Affairs and Executive Vice Chairman Woo Tae-hee of KCCI, and also Ambassador of Morocco to Korea. Thank you very much for your attendance. And from far away, from Ethiopia, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, we are joined with many participants, including African Union Commissioner Albert Muchanga for Africa Economic Development, Trade and Industry and Mining, and Vice President Khaled Sharif of African Development Bank, and Secretary General Wamkela Mene of AfCFTA. Furthermore, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to all the business leaders and entrepreneurs joining us today, as well as all the speakers and panelists for your participation. The world today is faced with an unprecedented situation due to COVID-19. Africa is no exception. However, even amidst this gloomy situation, the amount of investment made in African startups in 2020 amounted to $757 million, about 860 billion Korean won. The African economy is showing a positive overall outlook, with the overall number of investment cases increasing, although the rapid growth of investment has slowed down a little bit. As you may well know, Africa is indeed a young continent with unlimited potential, and its presence in the international community is growing further. In particular, it is also worth highlighting that it is in this year that the African Continental Free Trade Zone, AfCFTA, which had been postponed due to COVID-19, has officially entered the implementation stage. With the birth of the AfCFTA, forming the world's largest single market with 1.3 billion people and $3.4 trillion of GDP, Africa will indeed play a very important role in the global economy in the near future. Ladies and gentlemen, the Korea-Africa Business Forum, marking its third anniversary this year, aims to go beyond the existing cooperation and explore a new Korea-Africa partnership strategy. We hope to reorganize our strategies for entering Africa using the AfCFTA, identify trends in the infrastructure industry, which is an important area of economic cooperation between Korea and Africa, and also provide a platform to improve the understanding of various market development support measures. And these are the goals of today's forum. Reflecting the unpredictable advent of the post-COVID-19 era and the rapidly changing international environment, we hope today's meeting will be of great help in devising and strengthening a new economic cooperation strategy between Korea as well as Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that Korea-Africa economic cooperation will open a new horizon through this meaningful event. As policymakers or entrepreneurs preparing for the post-corona era, I sincerely hope you can see today's crisis as an opportunity and see Africa as a new market and a new partner with an active and innovative mindset that is trying to overcome today's challenges. Once again, I would like to thank you for your interest in the development of Korea-Africa relations and your participation in today's forum. And I hope this event will be a meaningful one for everyone. Thank you very much. Yes, please give a big hand, ladies and gentlemen. So that was the opening remarks of Chairman Yeo, who has lent unrelenting support to Korea-Africa relations. Now, His Excellency Jung Moon-chae, the Second Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of Korea, will deliver his welcoming remarks.
Your Excellency Albert Muchanga, African Union Commissioner for Economic Development, Trade, Industry, and Mining, and Your Excellency Ambassador Yeo Eun-gi, President of the Korea-Africa Foundation, Excellencies, and distinguished guests. So it is my honor and pleasure to participate in the 2021 Korea-Africa Business Forum in spite of the pandemic. I greatly value this initiative as a truly fruitful way to further promote economic cooperation between Korea and Africa. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought many challenges, yet it has also been impetus for greater regional and continental integration. Against this backdrop, the theme for today's forum, Integrated Africa, New Era for Transformative Partnership, is very timely. I trust that it will be an invaluable opportunity to exchange ideas and perspectives on the changing landscape of the African economy, and indeed on the evolving partnership between Korea and Africa. Distinguished guests, Korea and Africa may be 10,000 kilometers apart, but there are no limits to the bonds of partnership between us. I'd like to elaborate on three areas in which there is great scope to further deepen our ties. First, and most pressing, is cooperation in the area of public health. The emergence of the Omicron variant is indeed a wake-up call regarding the need to address global vaccine inequality. Unless vaccines are distributed to all nations in sufficient quantities, there is no way to stem the ongoing emergence of variants. It is key in stopping the spread of COVID-19. To this end, the Korean government has pledged $200 million to COVAX AMC. Korea will also be delivering additional vaccines to Africa in close coordination with the Africa CDC and UNICEF. In addition, equipped with a world-class biopharmaceutical production capacity, Korea, as a global vaccine hub, will take a leading role to increase the supply of vaccines around the world. Second, Korea and Africa will work together more closely in preparation for the ushering in of a new era with the African Continental Free Trade Area, or AfCFTA. Launched this year, AfCFTA is the world's largest free trade area, second only to WTO. The AfCFTA will create a single set of rules for trade and investment, offering an attractive investment environment for foreign investors. With the elimination of a tariff on 90% of trade in goods, the intra-African trade is set to increase, thereby generating impetus for the industrialization of Africa. In this respect, there are many areas for collaborative work between Africa and Korea, particularly in fields such as manufacturing and infrastructure. Hyundai and Kia Motors assembly plants to be established in Ghana, and Samsung and LG's TV factories in South Africa are good examples. The cooperation on customs clearance is also case in point. 5 African countries have introduced the Korean electronic customs clearance system, the so-called UniPass, contributing significantly to increased customs revenue. Third, Korea will strengthen collaboration in the field of green technology with Africa. In particular, given the sub-Saharan Africa has a quietly lower supply rate of electricity, as 46.7% as of 2019, than any other region, Korea will seek to play a part in the promotion of renewable energy and expansion of electronic transmission networks. In this regard, Korea signed an agreement with the African Development Bank in June, under which we will provide will provide 600 million US dollars over a period of next 5 years. Going forward, with abundant renewable energy resources in Africa, African renewable energy markets could have great potential for greenhouse gas emissions rise for Korean companies under the 2015 Paris Climate Change Convention. Distinguished guests, in closing, I'd like to stress that Africa is indeed an important partner for Korea. This year, there were visits by high-ranking officials from my ministry, including myself, to 15 African countries. In each country I visited, I felt a sense of eagerness on the part of African partners to further strengthen cooperation with Korea. I look forward to this forum yielding tangible results for a future of prosperity for both Korea and Africa. Thank you.
네, 큰 박수 부탁드리겠습니다.
Thank you very much. A big hand, please. That was the second Minister of Foreign Affairs of Korea. Thank you very much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we will now invite His Excellency Tae Hee-woo, Executive Vice Chairman of the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to deliver the congratulatory remarks.
Afternoon and good morning, depending on where you are. On behalf of KCCI and the Korean business, I would like to extend my gratitude to His Excellency Choi Jong-moon, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Ambassador Yeon-gi, President of Korea-Africa Foundation. And in addition, I'd like to express special thanks to Your Excellency Albert Muchanga, African Union Commissioner for Economic Development, Trade, Industry and Mining, Wamkele Mene, Secretary General of AfCFTA, participants from various countries in Africa joining online, and also representatives of diplomatic offices in Korea and Korean business leaders who are here with us today. As you are all aware, AfCFTA came into force this year, creating the world's largest single market that amounts to 1.2 billion population and 3 trillion US dollars, 400 billion in GDP. Alliance between countries have already been strengthened through the African Union and now is moving towards to economic integration of regional free trade area. United Nations Economic Commission for Africa have forecasted that AfCFTA is successfully implemented. Regional trade, which stands at 15%, will grow to 52% by 2022. I believe that the implementation of AfCFTA will promote the expansion of regional trade in the African continent, drive continued growth in manufacturing and industry, and bring structural changes to the members of the area. Korea, as a powerhouse of manufacturing industry, there are many areas where we can contribute to the economic development of Africa. We are very well aware of the importance of the infrastructure through our own experience of economic development that we achieved in the past. Furthermore, Korea has advanced technologies and highly sophisticated systems that are recognized across the world in the field of ICT. We expect to see many areas for cooperation in trade infrastructure network, including transition to digital trade and customs. Korea also has outstanding technologies in the field of renewable energy and energy transition, such as hydrogen fuel cell and solar energy. I truly hope to see many opportunities for win-win cooperation cases arise by having many Korean companies participate in the green energy infrastructure projects to be carried out by Africa. KCCI will work together with the Korea-Africa Foundation to support the broadening and deepening of investment and trade between AfCFTA and Korea. I sincerely hope that today's business forum serves as a venue for seeking transformative partnership with the new integrated Africa. Thank you for your attention. 감사합니다.
네, 큰 박수 부탁드리겠습니다.
Thank you very much for the kind words. So that was His Excellency Tae-hee-woo, Executive Vice Chairman of the KCCI. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for your presence as well.
Next, His Excellency Albert Muchanga, AU Commissioner of Economic Development, Trade and Industry and Mining, will deliver congratulatory remarks. Although he could not be here in person, he has sent in a congratulatory video message. Please have a look.
Your Excellency, Ambassador Young-moon Choi, the second Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of South Korea. Your Excellency, Ambassador Won-ki Leo, the President of the Korea-Africa Foundation. Your Excellency Tae-hee-woo, Executive Vice Chairperson of the Korea Chamber of Commerce. Your Excellency Khaled Sharif, Vice President for Regional Development, Integration and Business Delivery of the African Development Bank. Your Excellencies, African ambassadors and heads of mission accredited to the Republic of Korea. Representatives of the private sector from both Africa and Korea. Invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I greet each and every one of you. I'm very happy to deliver this congratulatory statement on the occasion of the 2021 edition of the Africa-Korea Business Forum. During your deliberations, you'll be exploring strategies for a transformed partnership between Africa and Korea in a dynamic and fast-changing world. This meeting consolidates the growing relationship between Korea and Africa at the political, economic, commercial, and individual levels by reinforcing existing ties. I'm making this statement behind a geological map of Africa produced in Korea to highlight the diverse nature of the relations that exist between Africa and South Korea. In this respect, I warmly congratulate the people and government of the Republic of Korea for convening and hosting the 2021 edition of the Africa-Korea Business Forum. I also like to congratulate all the organizers of the forum, especially the Korea-Africa Foundation. We could not meet in person. Again, the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, particularly the emergence of the Omicron COVID-19 variant, has made it so. The Omicron COVID-19 variant has also revived the concerns of potential adverse impacts on economic recovery at global and country levels. At our level, recent forecasts by the African Union Commission and the OECD suggest that the continent will grow at a rate of 3.7% in 2021, compared to global growth expected at 6% this year. Projections for the period 2022 and 2025 are also positive, but below the 7% annual growth rate required to accelerate progress towards poverty reduction and structural transformation envisaged under the African Union Agenda 2063. The theme for the 2021 Africa-Korea Business Forum, and I quote, Integrated Africa, New Era for Transformed Partnership, and quote, is being discussed against a background where our member states are focusing on building resilient, closely integrated, and strong economies in the post-COVID-19 pandemic era. To this end, trading under the African Continental Free Trade Area was rolled out on 1st January this year. The creation of a single continental market for goods and services with the planned free movement of business people and investments will integrate 55 African Union member states into one market with an aggregate population of 1.3 billion people, projected to be 1.5 billion in 2025 and 1.7 billion people in 2030. This large market space will facilitate complementarities in Africa's regional and continental value chains, in addition to expansion of intra-African trade. This, in turn, is an outlet for export diversification by each and every African country. Our partners also stand to benefit. Investing in one African market country opens doors to export to the rest of Africa, in accordance with the provisions of the rules of origin. We have hence shaped a new market with a young and growing population that will promote high levels of both private and business consumption. This new market offers scope for large-scale and long-term investments. I urge all of you to exploit this grand opportunity. The private sectors from both Korea and Africa play critical roles in meeting our development challenges. The key is to harness your transformative character as sources of competition, risk-taking, innovation, finance, and job creation to contribute to inclusive and accelerated sustainable development. As you meet, we expect you to play transformative roles in strategic sectors, including research and development, innovation, agriculture, agribusiness, sustainable energy, soft and hard infrastructure, healthcare, and among others, pharmaceuticals. In saying this, I come before you as someone who has closely followed Korea's development model and progress since 1984. I admire both the model and achievements, where the private sector is a partner in development. I would like to conclude my congratulatory statement by re-emphasizing the need to strengthen engagement with young entrepreneurs in order to promote innovation and startup development in both Africa and Korea. I've made this point in earlier editions of the forum, which I have attended consecutively since I came to the African Union Commission, and I repeat it here in this forum due to its importance. It is my conviction that investing in startup operations can provide a new strategic direction for accelerating innovation in any economy. In this respect, COVID-19 pandemic permitting, I call on the continuation of the Korea-Africa Youth Startup and Small and Medium Enterprises Fair and Program. Once again, congratulations for this edition of the Korea-Africa Business Forum. I'll end here and wish you fruitful deliberations, as well as thank you for your kind attention. I yield the floor. Thank you.
네, 박수 부탁드리겠습니다.
Yes, please give a big hand. So that was the AU Commissioner, Mr. Albert Muchanga, for his congratulatory remarks. Now we're going to listen to a keynote speech by Vice President Khaled Sharif for Regional Development, Integration and Business Delivery and African Development Bank. So please have a look at the screen.
Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. It is a pleasure to address the 2021 Korea-Africa Business Forum to discuss opportunities for expanded partnerships between Africa and Korea. My name is Khaled Sharif, and I am the Vice President for Regional Development, Integration and Business Delivery, the complex responsible for operational lending at the African Development Bank in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire. The long relationship between the African continent and Korea has helped establish relationships and understandings that bodes well for the future. Therefore, the African Development Bank believes the relationship offers considerable mutual benefits for all parties. From the African perspective, the African continent has 1.3 billion people, equivalent to China and also India. In recent decades, we have seen considerable GDP and per capita income growth in both China and India, and we expect high growth rates for Africa as well in the coming decades with the launch of the African Continental Free Trade Area that we call the AfCFTA. When we combine the expected population growth of Africa to double by 2050 to about 2.5 billion people, we can all run the numbers and multiply that figure by per capita income estimates to see how much GDP growth there will be. These macro trends offer significant opportunities for Africa as it will move towards creating a single market. And the bank considers the AfCFTA a game changer for the continent, as it will open up business opportunities and also facilitate integration into the world economy while adding value to what it produces. If managed properly, this can set into motion a virtuous cycle that will lead to unprecedented wealth creation for the African population, but it also requires support and investment from outside the continent, including from Korea. The launch of the AfCFTA comes at a time when the whole world is affected by COVID. The pandemic has exposed the continent's vulnerability to imports yet one more time. At the African Development Bank, we therefore also look at the AfCFTA as a chance to break with past patterns by adopting an investment focus. I would now like to highlight 6 investment opportunities that I believe are of particular relevance to Korean businesses. First, health. The pandemic has raised awareness amongst policymakers that Africa needs to build more robust emergency preparedness systems for the future. This is a particular focus for us in the regard of vaccine production, with a target of 60% self-sufficiency set for Africa by 2040. This means considerable opportunities in biotechnology and pharmaceuticals and the entire health sector and infrastructure, ranging from PPP to laboratory facilities, hospitals, etc. Second, food. Africa still imports about $30 billion of foodstuffs annually, and with a population expected to double over the coming decades, this is a significant market opportunity, as the continent also boasts the world's largest share of available arable land. Third, energy. About 600 million people on the continent still don't have access to electricity. Renewable energy is a significant investment opportunity, which is now attracting more and more climate financing as part of the global effort to address the effects of climate change. In addition to large-scale investments that are part of the continent's energy transition, which includes LNGs, I would like to highlight the opportunities presented in off-grid energy, the business models that come with it. And Africa is a large continent with huge distances between primary and secondary and tertiary cities, and the communities living in rural areas. Fourth, transport infrastructure. Africa's annual infrastructure investment gap is estimated at more than $100 billion, and a large share of it relates to roads, rail, bridges, ports, and airports. Today, 60% of sub-Saharan goods trade with international markets run through the port in Durban, South Africa. This is not only undesirable because of the concentration risks it carries, but also unsustainable in light of the growing volume of goods that will be traded going forward. 16 African countries are landlocked and require access to the coast to make logistics more manageable. Deepwater ports and related transport infrastructure are therefore significant investment opportunities. Fifth, ICT. Everything about the 21st century economy is digital. Based on data analytics, computing power, advanced algorithms, and artificial intelligence, etc., Africa needs to harness these capabilities not only to capitalize on growing e-commerce, but to transform the commercial and economic landscape. Global venture funding has already recognized the potential in Africa and is increasingly flowing to the continent to fund the next generation of tech entrepreneurs. Africa today has 7 unicorns and many more coming. 6, finance and capital markets. Financial integration is a key pillar of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, and the continent is making significant progress in this regard, which will offer opportunities for investors around the globe to participate and support Africa's growth story, while also promoting innovations around fintech that are taking hold rapidly across different countries. As you can note, we are very, very bullish on Africa, as we see the opportunities that lie ahead being simply enormous. Africa is indeed on the move, the opportunities are vast, and they offer Korean firms attractive opportunities to diversify, to trade, and to enhance regional and global supply chains, and potentially to capture new markets. Of course, all of this will translate into revenue growth and earnings for Korean firms. I would like to leave you with an emphasis on the potential mutual benefits that will come from more prosperous partnerships. Both Africa and Korea seek greater diversification of trade partners. The global political environment is highly uncertain, making concentration risk a major challenge. Diversified portfolios are always best for maintaining flexible options, offsetting unfavorable cycles and trends, and encouraging differing approaches to traditional challenges. Africa and Korea have much to offer to each other as a means of progressing in the 21st century. Last but not least, I want to express a big thank you to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea and the Korea Africa Foundation for inviting me to speak at this important event. I also want to express my sincere appreciation to Ambassador Un Ki-yo, the president of the Korea Africa Foundation, His Excellency Jung-moon Che, the second Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea, all African and Korean speakers, and our African Development Bank Asia External Representative Office for all the time and efforts they have expended in organizing this notable event. Distinguished ambassadors, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your kind attention. 감사합니다. Thank you.
네, 고맙습니다.
Thank you very much. So that was Dr. Khalid Sharif for his keynote speech. So to commemorate today's occasion, we're going to have a group photo all together. When I call in your name, please come up to the stage. First of all, President Yoon-gi, Vice Minister Choi Jong-moon, as well as Executive Vice Chairman Woo Tae-hee, as well as African ambassadors to Korea, all the moderators, panelists, and speakers for the sessions, please come forward for a group photo.
Oh, please be careful. Can you please proceed onto the stage for the group photo? 네, 앞을 바라봐 주시고요. 저희 무대 위에서 사진 촬영을 갖도록 하겠습니다. 앞에 카메라 감독님을 바라봐 주시고요. 저희 자리 다 되셨나요? 자리 다 괜찮은가요? 조금 오른쪽으로. Can we scoot a little bit to the right, please? Yes, we have to have everyone on the picture. A little bit to the right, please. 네, 괜찮은가요? 네, 왼쪽으로. 네, 한 줄로 촬영하도록 하겠습니다. 그럼 카메라 감독님을 바라봐 주시고요. 네, 환한 미소로. 네, 하나, 둘, 셋. 네. 조금 오른쪽으로. We'll scoot a little bit to the right, please. So we can have everyone on the picture. 네, 앞을 바라봐 주시겠습니다. Face forward towards the camera. Big smile, please. Okay, 화이팅, please. 1, 2, 3. 화이팅. Yes. Thank you very. 여러분 큰 박수 부탁드리겠습니다. 네, 고맙습니다. 자, 그럼 잠시 장례를 정리하는 시간을 갖고 저희
We're going to resume at 5:30 with session 1. So I will see you back at 5:30.
네, 이제 곧 2021 한아프리카
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the first session of the Korea Africa Business Forum. I'd like to ask all the participants to come inside and take your seats. I believe that there are participants still in the foyer. Please come into the hall and take your seats. I would like to also ask our virtual participants to stay connected online. Thank you.
네, 여러분 오래 기다리셨습니다. 그럼 지금부터 2021 한아프리카 비즈니스 포럼 그 첫 번째 세션을 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 첫 번째 세션은 AfCFTA의 이행에 따른 한아프리카 협력의 미래를 주제로 발표와 또 패널 토론과 함께 진행을 하도록 하겠습니다. 먼저 좌장으로는 대외 경제정책
So it will be moderated by Dr. Young-Ho Park, Senior Research Fellow of Africa and Middle East team of Kiev. Please welcome Dr. Park with a big hand. Yes, please go ahead, Dr. Park.
I'd like to invite fourth speaker. Where is the fourth speaker? It's not on the screen. Okay, and I'd like to invite the second speaker, Korean, named Bakon director.
네, 박수로 맞아주시기 바라겠습니다.
Please welcome him with a big hand.
So I'd like to the Dr. So Sang-hyun, panel discussant.
네, 박수로 맞아주시기 바라겠습니다.
Please welcome him with a big hand.
The 1 kilometer. Where is 1 kilometer? Okay. 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 Also, I'd like to Secretary General the Amkele Mene on the screen.
Yes, thank you. Good
Amkele
morning.
Mene. Okay. Okay. Hear me well. Amkele Mene.
Yes.
Yeah, hear me well.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, all of you, for being with us. Welcome to this session of the New Africa Korea Partnership following implementation of the AfCFTA. Today's topic is very exciting and meaningful in that we understand the AfCFTA and seek new business opportunity in Africa. I'm moderator of this session. My name is Park Yong-ho, working at Korea Government-Funded Economic Research Institute, advising on the international issue, including the Africa. I've been spending more than 20 years doing research on Africa economy. The focus are Africa development issue and the economic cooperation between Korea and Africa. I'm very proud of myself. I've been to many African countries, maybe almost every corner of the continent. Okay, I understand the focus of this session are two things. The one is about the AfCFTA itself, including the future of Africa regional trade. The other is about what AfCFTA means for Korea, more specifically how Korea utilized AfCFTA regime. That we have two distinguished speakers and one excellent panel discussant. Let me introduce them briefly. Let me start with Excellency Amkele Mene, Secretary General of AfCFTA Secretariat. She is on screen. She is so popular that there is no need to introduce him again here. These days, I think she's a very busy person, the busiest person in Africa, with the delivering lecture and participating seminar like today, and disseminating AfCFTA impact. She will present productive transformation with the AfCFTA in the first COVID-19 era. And to my left, the Park Hyun is there, Director General of ICT and Data Policy Bureau at Korea Customs Service. She is a top expert in Korea in the field of custom clearance system. She will present expanding custom clearance infrastructure to successful implementation of AfCFTA and cooperation with Korea. To my left is So Sang-hyun, the senior researcher at the POSCO Research Institute. POSCO is a Korean steelmaking company, currently ranked the fourth in the world in terms of steel the production. She has expertise in AfCFTA. She will participate in the panel discussion. Okay, let me welcome our first presenter, Excellency Amkele Mene. Okay. We have
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have the 18 minutes in this session, but 30 minutes and more is allocated to the Excellency Amkele Mene because you are very valuable person in this session. Okay, please.
Thank you very much. And I want to first appreciate the Korea Africa Foundation for organizing this session, and certainly for the invitation. Let me acknowledge His Excellency Jong Moon Choi, Second Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea, and of course, Mr. Tai-hee Woo, Executive Chairman of the Korea Chamber of Commerce, Ambassador Woon Kil-yo, President of the Korea Africa Business Foundation, the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps of African Ambassadors in Korea and South Korea, the distinguished ambassadors that from the African Diplomatic Corps, the head of the External Representation Office of the African Development Bank, and of course yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. It's unfortunate that because of the pandemic, I have not been able to travel to South Korea, but I hope that in the not too distant future, we will be able to meet in person. Let me express my appreciation to the Korea Africa Foundation for focusing this year's business forum on the AfCFTA, and a very critical topic within the AfCFTA is productive transformation and industrial development of African countries, spurred on by the AfCFTA. The COVID-19 pandemic, as we know, has had a devastating impact on the economies of African countries, with the African continent for the first time experiencing a decline of 2.1% in GDP last year, the first recession in over 25 years, cumulative production losses of up to 12% of GDP in the year 2020 to 2021, and decline in employment by 8.5%, and rise in debt levels of over 60% of GDP in the year 2020. The long-term effects of the pandemic-induced economic downturn threatens to lead to a reversal of the gains made in poverty reduction and human development over the past decades. Estimates by multilateral institutions indicate that up to 40 million Africans may slide into extreme poverty in the year 20 to 2021, pushing up the total to over 400 million people, or about a third of Africa's population, will slide back into poverty in the year 2021. While the continent is expected to exit recession this year, forecasts show that the recovery will be the slowest amongst world regions due to the limited room of governments to support their economies, and of course, the slow rollout of vaccines. And as highlighted by some analysts, there is a risk that Africa's growth may be lower for a much longer period of time compared to other regions of the world. And of course, this would be a significant setback. The World Economic Situation and Prospects mid-2021 report warns that the risks of a prolonged pandemic and insufficient fiscal space to stimulate demand, the world's most vulnerable countries are facing the prospect of a lost decade. This is a prediction by the World Economic Situation and Prospects report. This scenario has made it all the more important for African countries to step up efforts to accelerate productive transformation, industrial development, to ensure a more diversified, inclusive, and sustained pattern of economic growth. Productive transformation, the transformation of the economic structure, and the underlying productive capabilities remain low on the African continent, as the continent continues to rely significantly on producing and exporting primary commodities, primarily to countries of the North. The level of industrialization is low, with no progress in product refinement since the end of the 1960s, as the volume of high value goods in the production and export portfolio is still low relative to other regions. Therefore, Africa has to accelerate industrialization in order to transform, add value, and promote trade through greater integration in the region, continental and global value chains interconnectivity, and create jobs in order to tackle the bulk of this population, in order to take the bulk of our population out of extreme poverty and moderate poverty. It is especially noteworthy that productive transformation in Africa will require policies and actions that go well beyond the narrow focus on manufacturing or industrial sectors. In this regard, other productive activities that have potential for high growth and employment creation, such as modern agriculture, agro-processing, the services sector, would also need to be supported. Promoting agro-industrial development, for example, has the potential to create more productive jobs. It will shift the labor market from lower productivity in agriculture and informal sectors into activities with higher productivity. The African Continental Free Trade Area, which, as you know, became operational in January this year, is an instrument is a critical instrument in the strategy of transforming African economies. The AfCFTA provides for the promotion of industrial development through diversification and regional value chains development, particularly focusing on agriculture. This is imperative given the low levels of investments in industrial production, which is also a major contributor to the low percentage intra-Africa trade. Accordingly, as a Secretariat, in collaboration with our partners at the recently ended Intra-Africa Trade Fair, which was held in Durban in November in South Africa, we launched two important initiatives for the promotion of industrialization in Africa through value chains establishment. The first initiative is the AfCFTA private sector strategy, supported by the MasterCard Foundation, which focuses on 4 initial priority sectors or value chains. And these are agro-processing, automotive sector, pharmaceuticals, and transportation and logistics, based on the potential for import substitution and existing production capacities on the African continent. For each value chain, the Secretariat has considered the feasibility of addressing barriers to trade and production in the short term, and the potential to drive economic growth, employment, sustainability, and inclusivity, especially for young Africans, entrepreneurs, small medium enterprises, and of course, women. Our estimates, having arrived at the final conclusions, our estimates are that the interventions through this private sector strategy has the potential to add over $11 billion annually in production and over $5 billion annually in intra-Africa trade, more than double the current contribution of these value chains to intra-Africa trade. This increase in production and trade has the potential to create over 700,000 jobs, 55% of which for women and young people. The second initiative is the outcome of a collaboration with the UNDP, the United Nations Development Program, culminating in the launch of the 2021 AfCFTA Futures Report, which is entitled, "Which Value Chains for a Made in Africa Solution?" The report identifies 10 value chains that constitute some of the areas in which investment decisions can be made given the emerging configurations on the African market. Some of the value chains identified include leather and leather products, cocoa, soya, textiles and apparel, amongst others. The opportunities identified in this report were based on the tariff and services offers that have been exchanged by AfCFTA state parties. More importantly, each of the value chains identified presents an opportunity for enhanced participation of young Africans and women. We are very much interested in making sure that young people, young entrepreneurs, and women, that they also participate in the benefits and the implementation of the AfCFTA. Businesses are also in a better position to make sound decisions on where to invest to seize AfCFTA opportunities. And these two reports, these two initiatives that I've just reported on, are some of the tools that we will implement to make sure that we have a productive transformation of Africa's economy over decades to come. To conclude, Your Excellencies, the COVID-19 pandemic has wreaked tremendous havoc on the economies of Africa and the continent's industrialization efforts. One can, however, identify some positive responses which offer cause for optimism, such as the increased use of technological advancements. As we know, increased use of advanced digital technologies is having a major impact on manufacturing globally. We therefore need to implement policies and strategies to harness the digital revolution to boost our industrial growth and productive transformation. With the impact of the crisis still unfolding, African countries will need all the economic growth, dynamism, and resourcefulness that is possible in the years to come. Due to the operationalization of the AfCFTA, unleashing the economic potential of a continent of 55 countries with 1.3 billion people and a combined GDP of 3.4 United States dollars provides an opportunity for growth and sustained transformation of Africa's economy. As I've noted in the past, Africa's best chance at economic recovery and productive sector transformation is rapid implementation of the AfCFTA, such that trade becomes the driver of economic recovery in Africa and a significant contributor to growth and development on the African continent. Other parts of the world have been able to marshal significant resources, stimulus packages to restart economic growth in their economies. Since the pandemic, the United States, the European Union, the UK, for example, have disbursed close to 15 trillion United States dollars in stimulus packages to re-inject growth and dynamism in their economies. As we know, not many African countries are in a position to match this large amount of economic intervention that we've seen from these stimulus packages. Africa must therefore move from its current over-reliance on export of primary commodities to countries of the North to a more diversified export capacity so that we dismantle this colonial economic model of continued exports of primary commodities. This is the main reason why the AfCFTA exists today. It is to ensure that we reignite our economies, that we reduce the reliance of Africa on the export of primary commodities, that we boost intra-Africa trade, and accelerate industrial development on our continent. With the experience of South Korea in increasing and accelerating industrial development, I believe that Africa and South Korea have a lot in terms of exchange of experience and collaboration. Africa also has an investment opportunity proposition for South Korean investors and businesses. As I have noted, we have a combined GDP of $3.4 trillion, which in 15 years' time is projected to be close to 7 trillion United States dollars. That is a combined GDP of consumer spending and business spending. And we would therefore invite South Korean investors and businesses to consider strongly expanding their presence in manufacturing, in technology investment in Africa, and for those who have not yet entered the African market, to leverage the AfCFTA for this dynamic and fast-growing market. I thank you very much for the opportunity, and I wish you success in your deliberations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Amkel Secretary General. His presentation will be very kind, insightful, and informative, helping us to understand the intention of AfCFTA and the future of the Africa trade as well as Africa development potential. The Amkel Secretary General, is there any nation outside Africa that tried to sign FTA with the AfCFTA member country in order to utilize AfCFTA? I think this, some countries such as South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, Egypt can be a candidate country for FTA from the perspective of outside the world. Those four countries can be classified as base country. It's a base camp, a base country with a relatively developed industrial base and infrastructure. Second question, what do you think about the FTA between Korea and these base country?
Well, thank you very much for the questions. I will take them, they are related, I will take them as one question. The AfCFTA is now comprising 39 state parties. So out of 55 countries, 39 are state parties to the agreement. More countries will ratify the agreement during the course of next year. But we are not, the AfCFTA is not a customs union, and therefore is not in a position to enter into a trade agreement because it is a free trade area. It's not a customs union. The entering into bilateral free trade agreement continues to be the exclusive competence of the state parties at state party level. We are not like the European Union, where the Secretariat has the competence to negotiate and enter into trade agreements on behalf of member states. That is not where we are yet. We do, of course, one day aspire to be a customs union in Africa, and at that point, countries around the world will be able to enter into a free trade agreement with Africa as a customs union at that particular point in time. For now, what I would say is that countries that are interested in entering into a free trade area with an African country, that is a bilateral discussion that they can have with that. You mentioned some of the countries where there may be an interest. That would be a bilateral negotiation and a bilateral discussion. The AfCFTA's importance and the importance of the Secretariat, however, is that we are presenting a consolidated market where we apply the same rules for trade and investment, which is what the AfCFTA will be. Africa will have an opportunity to enhance and improve its competitiveness. You as Hyundai or any other Korean investor will invest in East Africa when you expand to West Africa, the same rules for trade and investment will apply. This did not happen before the existence and the entry into force of the AfCFTA. The second important aspect is we are now presenting you with an integrated market. You know as well as I do that by the year 2050, the world's youngest population will be in Africa. And so this demographic dividend offers an opportunity for long-term investors as they consider diversifying their investment portfolio into new markets. And so, although we may not be a customs union today, the investment proposition that we make as a free trade area, we believe is quite compelling. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellency Secretary General. The other question waiting for you. They comes at the end of this session. Okay. Okay. Next presenter is Park Hun, Director General of Korea Customs Service. He is here with the topic of expanding customs clearance infrastructure to successful implementation AfCFTA and the cooperation measure with Korea. Please, Park Hun.
Hello, everyone. I am Park Hun, Director General of ICT Data Policy Bureau of the Korea Customs Service. I am very happy to be able to give this presentation personally, and it's an honor for our institution as well to speak before you for the 2021 Korea Africa Business Forum. Today, I will talk about expanding customs clearance infrastructure for the implementation of AfCFTA and the possibility of cooperation with Korea. For the smooth implementation of AfCFTA, it is necessary to reduce transaction costs and expand trade by simplifying, standardizing, and automating trade procedures. And the basic infrastructure that allows to do this is the electronic customs clearance or e-clearance system. In this regard, the Korea Customs Service, or KCS, would like to see cooperation in establishing an e-clearance system with African countries and seek ways to expand our cooperation in the future. Let me first explain the development stages and the benefits of the KCS's e-clearance system. So the name UniPass is the brand name of an e-clearance system developed and operated by the KCS. This is the overseas deployment status of UniPass. UniPass first began in 2005 and has been deployed to 15 countries, amounting to $250 million. About 16% of this amount was funded by Korea as a grant, and the rest was funded by the country in demand through internal money or loans. UniPass has been deployed to 5 countries in Africa: Tanzania, Cameroon, Ethiopia, Ghana, and Algeria. And we have a plan to expand UniPass in the African region. The KCS diagnoses the overall customs administration and computerized system of developing countries and support in the form of ODA, the customs modernization consulting projects, suggesting master plans. And this type of consulting has been provided from 2012 to 2021. We supported 37 countries, out of which 12 were African states. After carrying out the customs modernizations consulting projects, the KCA is also proposing ways to secure funds necessary for systems improvement. For example, from 2022, we will work with the Ministry of Economy and Finance of Korea to undertake subsequent system construction projects using funds like the EDCF. Moreover, the KCS is implementing an ODA project, so inviting customs staff for training, building some systems of UniPass, or providing post-management of system operation. What you're looking at is an example of African countries that recently introduced UniPass. So Ghana, in June 2020, introduced ICUMS, so its first stage. And after that, we looked at their tax revenue. Year on year, Ghana's tax revenue was up by 24%, and customs clearance time was reduced to average 4 days. That's quite an achievement. Let's have a look at the case of Cameroon. Cameroon opened a system called CAMSYS in June 2020, so its first phase. And with the same human resources and the same system, it was able to handle more than 10 times higher level of containers, facilitating customs clearance and trade, and their tax revenue was up by 19%. We at the KCS have continuously developed the UniPass. Since 1974, we have been computerizing and managing tariffs and trade statistics. Since 1994, the EDI system has been developed, and since 2002, EDI has been converted to the internet web-based method. And in 2016, we drastically increased the capacity to convert into a smart clearance system. So you can say that the UniPass of the KCS is the accumulation of the know-how of the KCS for about 50 years. Now, from now on, let us have a look at the achievements made by this e-clearance system, UniPass. Since 1990, over the past 30 years, the volume of trade and the number of travelers have increased more than eightfold. And one of the rising sectors these days is e-commerce. E-commerce since 2011 has increased 10 times. However, the number of customs officers has not increased much. We at the KCS were able to respond to this rapid increase in workload and manpower shortage through the development of UniPass. And in terms of trade competitiveness of Korea, UniPass has played indeed a very important role. Let's have a look at from the business's perspective. So with the establishment of UniPass, customs clearance time was shortened and corporate costs have been reduced. For example, an average time required for a cargo to be brought into and taken out of the bonded area in the past, in the 1990s, it was 9.6 days. Now it's reduced to 1.5 days. And the average processing time for customs declarations is for imports 1.5 hours, and for exports it's 1.5 minutes. Trade volume increased 20 times, 30 times, but customs clearance became much faster. So we have analyzed all of these benefits, and in 2018, the logistics costs reduced for company have been estimated at 5.4 billion US dollars. So this UniPass system In 2019, OECD's Trade Facilitation Index was chosen as the best case in border procedure automation, and in 2019, UNIPAS was ranked #1 in UN's Digital and Sustainable Trade Facilitation Global Survey. And in 2013, the WTO Doha Development Agenda reflected the case of UNIPAS's single window. And in 2011, UNIPAS was introduced as an exemplary case in the risk management field of the World Customs Organization. So it is widely well reputed in the world. Now I'd like to talk about the main features of UNIPAS. UNIPAS is an electronic system that computerizes all import and export customs procedures and supports automation of all tasks in connection with internal and external users. The KCS, or the Customs Office, distributes electronic documents with external users, such as companies, customs agents, and shipping companies, as well as inspection and quarantine necessary for customs clearance. And information is exchanged by email with 49 external institutions, including the National Tax Service and the Bank of Korea. In addition, there is a single window system that allows traders to share documents they have to submit for import and export through a single window system. Furthermore, in the airport's immigration operations, airliners only need to submit their passenger list to the integrated CIQ system connected to customs only once. So that's connected to customs, the Ministry of Justice, and quarantine offices. And during the import customs clearance, 31 organizations, including inspections and quarantine, are connected to a single window system. So reports and processing results are automatically shared with UNIPAS. So this helps to reduce costs in trade. And let me briefly talk about in connection with FTA. So it's related with the data exchange system for certificates of origin between China and Indonesia. So we have actually established the system with these countries, and we're in the process of expanding the target countries. So as for this system, it does not allow forging documents. By directly exchanging certificates of origin between customs authorities, and customs screening procedures are simplified, and customs clearance is quick. So the system indeed contributed to the early establishment of the FTA signed by Korea. Next is the electronic tax payment system. The KCS collects 20% of the total national tax. When a taxpayer accesses the UNIPAS to inquire about taxes to be paid and then pays customs duties, then the information is immediately transmitted from the bank to the KCS server so that the customs can check the receipts in real time. One of the important roles played in customs is the customs data. So CDW is a system that accumulates and systematically manages internal data generated during customs clearance processes, such as exports, imports, and refunds, and data obtained by external institutions like the National Tax Service and Bank of Korea. If the data is well managed, then users can quickly and also easily access, analyze, and use it for decision making. So when a ship or an airliner enters the country, data can be analyzed in real time to select highly criminal cargo or people and block them before customs clearance. So ultimately, data management and data risk management are essential, and we can say that this is a very important system. Next, I would like to talk about risk management. Basically, at the customs, we classify items as low risk and high risk through information analysis procedure. So low risk items are handled quickly, such as automatic customs clearance, but high risk items are controlled by customs. And recently, artificial intelligence algorithms are also being applied to increase the accuracy of screening. And the risk management is carried out in all customs clearance procedures, including transportation of cargoes, customs clearance, follow-up, and the immigration procedures. One of the goals that we have is to go beyond the computerization. We want to push ahead applying digital transformation or seeking digital transformation by applying new technologies like AI, blockchain, and big data. By applying new technologies, customs control can be increased to ensure import and export safety. And we are applying these technologies to do risk management of import and export supply chains, as well as increasing e-commerce and travelers and imported cargo. Furthermore, the KCS is providing 42 types of trade statistics information on the internet, and we are also providing information and customs clearance of cargo through open API. So it is very much used by the Korean people. And I would like to stress again about the important role played by KCS. So the export statistics are open on a real-time basis. So the trade statistics actually information is considered as a very important prior indicator for many other sources around the world. So it is very much referenced by many journals or around the world. So ultimately, the basic infrastructure of trade facilitation is indeed the customs or electronic customs clearance system. So once we have this e-clearance system, we can facilitate or speed up the clearance procedure and ensure transparent administration and ensure efficient follow-up management. For companies that will increase international competitiveness, smooth trade, increase trade volume, and the tariff collection will go up, thus contributing to sustainable economic development. So in order for AfCFTA to be settled and established early and properly implemented, it is very important to expand the infrastructure of e-clearance system. Therefore, massive investment and support are needed in this field. The KCS is very much confident that we'll be able to develop further specific cooperation programs based on our cooperation with the African region. Thank you very much.
Very much for your kind, insightful presentation. The UNIPAS is characterized by the one-stop service through a single the window. Actually, I surprised with the other big performance coming from the Korea modernizing custom system. And as you know well, in Africa, the non-tariff the barrier, such as the complex custom process, is daunting challenge, holding back smooth cross-border trade activity. Korea is ready to share technology and experience of a modernized custom clearance system through a knowledge sharing program funded by Korean government. Okay, let me invite Dr. So Sang-hyun as the first panel discussant. Please.
네, 안녕하세요.
Hello, thank you. Good afternoon. This is Sang-hyun Seo. Now then, I would like to thank the presentations by the two speakers, first of all. Now, I understand that the AfCFTA was to be launched. Now, this was announced in 2019, and when this announcement was made, then the entire world welcomed it and was highly interested in it. So was Korea. Korea was keenly interested in the launch of the AfCFTA. So, including myself, many African researchers were forecasting the impact of the AfCFTA on the African continent, and many reports have been published since then. Now, as has been mentioned by many so far, now the AfCFTA is the single largest trading bloc after the WTO, with 1.3 billion in population and $3.4 trillion in GDP. And it is going to be, and it is the largest market in the world. Now, it is also going to be helpful in unleashing the potential of Africa's economic potential. And also, the World Bank is forecasting that by 2035, millions and millions of people in Africa will be able to move away from poverty thanks to the launch of the FTA. And also, so far, the aid has been dominant form of relations between the different countries with Africa. But then now, more recently, the discourse is altering to investment and trade. And in fact, Africa has been recording one of the fastest economic growth in the world, as well as demographic growth. And with such growth, especially in terms of labor supply, it is also going to be one of the biggest markets in the world. Especially, Africa is young. Given this, now what has become an important challenge these days in terms of the supply chain disruption. So we do believe that Africa is also going to be playing an important role in resolving the global supply chain disruptions. But of course, as the Secretary General has also mentioned, Africa has suffered a lot under the COVID-19 pandemic, and also because of the various circumstances, African economy has shown lesser resilience. As a result, economic recovery is likely to be delayed more so than other regions. Having said that, as was mentioned earlier, it is abundant in labor supply and also abundant in natural resources, especially for the electric vehicles and also for the batteries. So there are raw materials for these, like cobalt, manganese, or nickel. So Africa is abundant in these raw materials. So we expect another round of commodities boom in Africa, which will lead to further economic growth. Now, Secretary General has also mentioned in his presentation that Africa has shown the worst economic performance in the past 25 years, but still Ghana, Tanzania, and many African countries are already showing 5% growth this year. And starting next year, there is an expectation that African economy will kickstart its recovery. Having said that, now the African continent so far is still slower in the vaccine rollout, with less than 10% of overall vaccination rate of its population, which is going to remain a challenge for some time. And then now, the launch of the AfCFTA will be helpful in promoting the intra-Africa investment and trade. And for that purpose, AfCFTA is going to eliminate the goods trade tariff and also lower the non-tariff barrier so that intra-trade will be further promoted. Intra-Africa trade was only about 14.5% recently. In the case of Asia, it's 52%. In Europe, it's close to 70% in terms of the intra-regional trade. So we can see that the intra-Africa trade remains at a very low percentage. So with the launch of the AfCFTA by 2025, it is expected to pull up the intra-Africa trade to over 20%, close to 25%. Now then, against this backdrop, I would say that the importance of the electronic customs system is also going to be very important in spelling the success of the AfCFTA, because the AfCFTA is going to promote the intra-regional trade, and for this purpose, we also need to have efficient customs clearance so that there will be no bottlenecks in the customs clearance. Now, the AfCFTA will also have an important impact on export as well as maritime trade. So with the launch of the FTA, then the African countries would also likely to increase the demand for shipping. And this also means that for the shipping transport, then it will also require more investment into the port as well as the surrounding infrastructure. Now with the AfCFTA, then the cargo shipping will grow from 58 million tons today to about 132 million tons, increasing by over 2.5 times by 2030. And for the bulk cargo, it would be 8.8%. And also for the container cargo, it will increase by over 100%. But then the African ports infrastructure is not broad enough, so there has to be more investment in order to increase the infrastructure. For example, the Tangiers in Morocco, they have been investing heavily into the port infrastructure, so now it has turned into one of the most efficient ports in the world. And also, of course, with the AfCFTA, Africa is also faced with many challenges. For example, improving on the infrastructure, and also, of course, with the AfCFTA, now still the services trade, so there are still no clear set of norms or rules regarding the services trade, and also the country of origin issue has yet to be fully resolved. But of course, with the AfCFTA, there are still a lot of areas of cooperation between Korea and Africa. And for example, the electronic customs clearance and also the logistics-related smart infrastructure building can be one area of cooperation, and also the healthcare system. So providing Korea's skills and technology for the healthcare system. Then also, for example, some of the healthcare manufacturing facilities of Korea relocating to Africa could be another opportunity that will help resolve the healthcare situation in Africa, and also will be able to develop the healthcare-related professionals in Africa. And also, the startup ecosystem, which has also been quite big in Korea, in Africa. Now, for the startup ecosystem in Africa, there can also be investment and funding from Korea, leading to further cooperation between the two regions. As we can see, the AfCFTA is likely to promote investment and trade between Korea and Africa as well. So we do look forward to growing cooperation between the two regions after the launch of the FTA. And for this purpose, there have to be more considerations about a policy cooperation, and there would also have to be more exchanges among the high-level personnel of the two regions. Once again, I would like to thank the two speakers, and that is all for my comment.
Idea on how Korea enterprise take advantage of the AfCFTA regime in entering Africa market. As you mentioned, AfCFTA provide diverse business opportunity for Korea, but Korean enterprise need to strategic approach African market under the AfCFTA regime. One of the ideas is that the market segmentation or selection and focusing strategy. In order for this, primarily it is necessary to identify promising market or base country, which has a very strong economic tie with the other member country. Another idea is that, as mentioned, free trade agreement with the strategic countries such as Egypt and South Africa in order to secure the base country for roundabout export. Okay. Anyway, it is recommended that Korea government and the Korean private sector need to restructure Africa entry strategy under the AfCFTA regime. Okay. Let me open Q&A session. Okay. If you have any question, please raise your hand and please identify yourself and the presenter to whom you would like to ask question. Okay. I invite question from a floor. Okay, please, the microphone.
Yeah, thank you. Shafiq Rashadi, Ambassador of the Kingdom of Morocco. First of all, thank you for the speakers for this value information provided this afternoon. My point is about the cooperation between Africa and Korea in light of the implementation of the AfCFTA, which is the world's largest free trade area, encompassing 1.3 billion people in 54 African countries. It is of the great importance of the 54 Africa countries, including my country, the Kingdom of Morocco, which has entered to it from the start and is willing to share its expertise with all the parties wishing to deepen cooperation based on its optimal implementation. My question is, what are the various difficulties or the major difficulties and challenges that Korea-Africa cooperation may face in the framework of implementing this continental of 54 Africa countries FTA? The question can be answered by any of the speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Your good comment, Excellency Ambassador. Okay. 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 I'd like to invite another question from floor.
Thank you very much. My name is Boleme Jean Izankoy. I'm from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Actually, I'm working in a Korean company as an overseas business general manager, and also I'm the acting general administrator of HF Holdings, an established company in Congo. So my question goes to Mr. Hon. I would just like to know if the e-clearance system goes together with infrastructure, because you can implement very well the e-system, the e-clearance system, but if the infrastructure is not so convenient, I think that can be a problem. So what do you think about that? And another question is, what is the policy for you to cooperate with an African country based on your e-clearance system? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. So regarding the first question, and to answer your question, actually the e-clearance system, you should have a basic internet infrastructure that supports the system. But based on our experience with many countries, as for the countries that do not have a favorable internet problem, they might face some issues. But we have actually exported this model, and we try to deploy that model into these countries. But if the countries have a basic internet infrastructure, then there's not much difficulty in implementing this e-clearance system. So I'm sure that this could be of a concern to you. But if I share my experience or our experience of deploying this system, one of the most important thing is the commitment of the person or the leader who wants to implement this project. Because when there is digitalization and computerization taking place, then the working level officials or working level workers might resist this change. So what is important is to minimize resistance to change and also to well manage these changes so that we can actually implement such projects successfully. So we believe that the leadership's commitment has been very important in implementing this kind of project. And one more thing is that after we implement the e-clearance system, you have to operate and manage this system. So you need people to do that. So in order for that to be successful, in the process of implementing or developing the system, we need the engagement, or we need to nurture the specialists and the experts. So when you make decision to develop this system, you also have to have a plan about how to nurture and how to develop relevant talents and personnel for the successful operation of the system after it's implemented. So first, the leadership's commitment, and second is development of experts in parallel. And regarding the second question about the cooperation procedure, so what is very important is that we at the KCS, we actually talk with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to discuss about the countries of our focus. So what is most important here is that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, through many different channels, they select the partner countries. And in this process, we also take part to discuss together with the ministry. So once you are selected as a target country for cooperation, then it will be much faster in terms of implementing this e-clearance. And even though you're not selected as a target country, you can leverage your channels to discuss with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But the most important or the first procedure is, or the first important criteria is whether you are subject to the target country selected by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or not.
오케이. 예, 먼저 모로코 대사.
Well, thank you very much. I would just like to comment briefly about the question by the Moroccan ambassador. So now then, Your Excellency Ambassador asked about the biggest challenges in the cooperation. Now, from the Korean perspective, now then when it comes to investment especially, then I would say that it would be the infrastructure in Africa. Of course, Morocco, I've been to Morocco several times, and I see that Morocco has very well-developed infrastructure. But let's say in the sub-Saharan African countries especially, then infrastructure would be the biggest drawback. Another is, I would say, illegal institutional framework. For example, between many African countries and Korea, let's say the double taxation treaty or the investor protection treaty are not there. So unless we have such treaties, then for the businesses, then it is bound to have risks. So that means that they have to enter these markets knowing that there are risks. But then for the Korean businesses, then now when there are such legal or institutional risks, then they are likelier to say that, well, then we don't really have to go to Africa at this time because of such risks. So then I would say that in terms of promoting trade or investment between Korea and Africa, then I would say that the institutional legal framework, especially the subtleties in the legal and the institutional framework. So if the governments were to work together to resolve them, I believe that many more Korean businesses would also try to have their activities in Africa.
To wrap up this session, we are 5 minutes left. The Ghana first president, Kama Nkrumah, who led his country to the independence in 1957, who is called the father of Pan-Africanism. They spoke at the inaugural conference of the OAU. He declared that population of Africa, the crying for unity. He dreamed about united of Africa. The African continent is highly fragmented to more than 15 nations, small-scale economy by colonial power. Around 6 years later, now, his dream came too close to the reality with the launch AfCFTA. AfCFTA had the potential to transform Africa. At the same time, they provide new opportunity for Korea. However, it is true that there are countries challenging facing AfCFTA, especially poor infrastructure. Poor infrastructure actually holding back regional integration. Let me take an example. According to certain paper, the transportation cost from shipping a freight container from Tokyo of Japan to Abidjan, capital of Cote d'Ivoire, is roughly $1,500, while moving it from Abidjan to Addis Ababa costs $5,000. 3 times more expensive as much. It is true that AfCFTA has a long way to go there. However, we Korea turn their eyes on the Africa development potential. The Africa emerging as a key partner for Korea. I hope, we hope, AfCFTA would not dream, but vision and reality. I hope today's forum lay the foundation for understanding the AfCFTA and seeking new opportunity and enhancing economic cooperation between Korea and Africa. My last word, in order to AfCFTA realize his goal, number 1 should be implementation. Number 2, implementation. Number 3, implementation. Take action. That's important. Thank you very much for watching this conference. Thank you.
네, 여러분 박수 부탁드리겠습니다.
Please give a big hand, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your interest in session 1. Thank you, our moderator, our speakers, and our panelists for your hard work. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we will wrap up session 1, have a short break, and begin session 2 from 7 p.m. Please enjoy your break.
네, 잠시 안내 말씀드리.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 2021 Korea Africa Business Forum Session 2 will begin shortly. I would like to ask everyone to please come back inside the hall and be seated. Especially those who are still out in the corridor, please come back inside the venue and take your seats. And for the online participants, let me ask for your attention onto the screen. Thank you.
네, 잠시 안내 말씀드리겠습니다. 이제 곧 2021
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, the 2021 Korea Africa Business Forum Session 2 will begin shortly. Let me ask everyone to please come back inside the hall and take your seats, especially those who are still out in the corridor. Please come back inside the hall and be seated. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, the 2021 Korea Africa Business Forum Session 2 will begin shortly. I would like to kindly ask the participants to please come back inside the hall and take your seats. Thank you very much.
Please proceed into the conference room and take your seats. Once again, session 2 is about to begin. We ask all participants to please proceed inside and take your seats. Thank you. 네, 오노플라이
Now, ladies and gentlemen, both online and offline, we see that we still have so many participants with us despite the late hours. So thank you very much. And now, newly energized, we will continue with session 2. Now, under the theme of prospects and opportunities for infrastructure investment in the integrated Africa, we will proceed with the presentations and the panel discussion. Now, the moderator is Dr. Patrick Unzana Olomo, Senior Economist of the Investments and Resource Mobilization of the African Union. Now, of course, because of the COVID-19, we will be meeting him online.
Greetings, sir. Hello.
Yes.
Yes, greetings, nice to meet you. And we would like you to proceed session 2, but before you do begin, we would like to hear your greetings to the audience. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, distinguished guests and participants around the world, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening to you all. Welcome to this second session of the Africa-Korea Business Forum. My name is Patrick Nzana Olomo. I am Senior Economist at the African Union Commission. I am pleased and honored to moderate this session today. The session will be framed into 3 segments. In the first segment, we are going to receive 2 presentations. One by Mr. Kofi Pluse, the Managing Director and Head of Project Development of Africa 50, the second by Mrs. Hyungjong Lee, Director General of EDCF Operation Department of Exim Bank, Korea, who will join us through a pre-recorded video message. The second segment of the session is the interactive panel discussion that will allow us to better understand the dynamics of infrastructure development in Africa. Four speakers are going to share their views and expertise on infrastructure development both in Africa and Korea. Allow me to welcome the panelists. First, we have online panelists. We have Mr. Naoshige Konishita, the Principal External and Communication Officer at the African Development Bank. We have on site in Seoul, Mr. Dong-Woo Shin, the Head of Division, Middle East and Africa Division of the International Contractor Association of Korea. Mr. Sang Won-soo, the Vice President of the Global Marketing Group Overseas of Daewoo ENC Overseas. Last but not the least, we have with us also Mrs. Yong-Kyu Jo, the Head of Exim Bank Dar es Salaam Representative Office. Distinguished panelists, you are all welcome to this session. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, as you are all aware, and it has been already highlighted since this morning, Africa has established the most bigger trade area in January 2021 in terms of numbers of countries, 55, with a combined GDP of nearly $4 trillion US. The African Continental Free Trade Area opens a new era of prosperity for Africa in its journey to achieve the vision and the aspirations of Agenda 2063. Achieving Agenda 2063 requires to bridge several gaps that are hampering Africa's ability to attain the 7 to 10% growth rate needed to accelerate structural changes. One of these challenges going forward is infrastructure development, as infrastructure are key to enhance Africa's ability to become a powerhouse productive area and a free trade area. Africa today also has the fastest urbanization rate in the world. It is estimated that by 2050, half of the population will be living in cities. To avoid bottlenecks in mobility, supplies, and services, it is important to put infrastructure at the forefront of urban planning. So what are the prospects and opportunities of infrastructure investment in Africa for the successful implementation of the AfCFTA? Without any further development, and I do hope that this is the way to proceed, I will allow Mr. Kofi Kluse to make his presentation on the expanding potential of value creation on African resources through infrastructure. Mr. Kofi Kluse, the floor is yours if you are connected.
Thank you very much, Dr. Patrick Nzana. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you, then. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are, and thank you very much for your presence. I wanted indeed to somewhat discuss today the African infrastructure and how we at Africa 50 are tackling the opportunities that are quite important in Africa, but also significant challenges that we face in developing infrastructure. Okay. I'm trying to move the presentation forward. It's not going forward. Can I ask the Secretariat to move the presentation forward, please? No. me. Okay, great. Sorry for that. So first, we'd like to say that there are indeed incredible opportunities in Africa's infrastructure, and it has been discussed during the first panel, including the regional opportunities. Africa's Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Proceed.
Africa's development is dependent on important infrastructure projects, including regional projects, which were discussed and promoted by the AfCFTA, which is the new free trade area, which would rely on infrastructure as a backbone to increase free trade between African countries. Now, when we think about Africa infrastructure, we think about a lot of needs, and the public sector is doing a lot to address those needs to the tune of $30 to $40 billion a year. However, an important gap remains, and that gap needs to be filled by the private sector. And this is what Africa 50 was really established to do. Africa 50 is basically sitting at the nexus, the confluence between the public and the private sector. We have public shareholders, including the African Development Bank, 28 countries, which have provided resources for Africa 50 to invest into infrastructure across the continent. And we operate commercially, privately. So we have also very strong partnerships and relationships with private players. And as such, the idea is that Africa 50, once engaged, becomes a bridge between the public sectors, our owners, and the private sector, our partners. And that value proposition is very important in developing projects. We do this around three pillars. One, what we call project development. It has been noted that although the needs for infrastructure were quite important, many projects which were looking for private financing couldn't get it because these projects weren't properly prepared and not sufficiently attractive to international investors. And someone mentioned during the previous panel the importance that investment climate, project being prepared to the standard, to the international standards have, because unless these projects are prepared as expected by international investors, Korean investors, they will not get the interest and the financing that they need. So this is what project development does at Africa 50, which is to contribute to invest real money to prepare projects in a way that is conform to international standards. The second leg of Africa 50 is what we call accelerate, in a certain sense, which means investing at financial close to help project being implemented. And that's what is being done by our project finance department. The third leg is to mobilize financing. There are a lot of projects can be developed, but these projects, this infrastructure project, need a lot of resources in equity and debt, and thus mobilization is a key element of implementation. So that's what we do at Africa 50, project development, as I mentioned. What is really key for us is to be active as a minority sponsor, investing equity with strong co-developers to improve project execution. And we work with other institutions, notably the African Development Bank, to obtain guarantees, mobilize debt. Our relationship with the African Development, and Naoshigo-san, who is on this panel, can testify to it, is very, very strong. When we look at our project finance arm, here again, we can invest equity, but I would say at a stage that is post project development. And why do we do that? Is that our partners, governments, etc., expect Africa 50, once they have invested, to be involved in a continuous way. So not only in project development, but also in financing, in being part of financing the project. This is why we have our project finance arm. And as I mentioned, mobilization, which is key to us. There are a lot of projects that need financing, equity financing. We do project development, we do project finance, but the bulk of the private financing is going to come from third parties, and these third parties need to be mobilized. We have countries having invested directly in Africa 50 through our Africa 50 Infrastructure Acceleration Fund. We tap a different type of investors, which are pure play financial investors, institutional investors, global institutional investors, who come and then can contribute to also invest in this project and implement them. When you look at Africa 50 very quickly, we have, we're led by our chairman of the board, who is Dr. Adeshina, president of the African Development Bank, and our CEO is Alain Bobisse. And as you can see, our team is very diverse. We have professionals from all over the world. Our shareholders, very quickly, I mentioned 28 countries, the African Development Bank, 2 central banks, and today about $878 million have been contributed to Africa 50's capital. To date, we have done a number of projects across Africa, and I will really focus on a few key ones. How do we look at Africa 50 in terms of what we propose? It is basically to make sure that we facilitate the implementation of projects. And we've seen that with our Korean counterpart. I've been to Korea several times, etc. The question is often when investors look at Africa, what is the investment climate? How comfortable are they that once they have invested, they will recoup their money, they will be able to transfer it back, etc., etc. So all these questions are quite important, and the presence of Africa 50 is really to give the signal that projects are done properly in a manner that respects international standards and balances the interests of countries, our shareholder countries, and the private sector. We really look at ourselves as an honest broker. Once again, this is done through project development and project finance, and these are a few partners that we have been working with. As you can see, they're partners that are banks, DFIs, strategic sponsors, mainly from, I would say, from the Middle East and Europe. And we really look forward to engaging with our Korean counterparts to also get partnership with Korean companies. Now, on to the second part of my intervention, which has to do with project bankability and what really is important when you look at Africa in terms of project bankability. Really, for projects to be bankable, what is important for more capital to flow is to have enabling environment. And somebody discussed the investment climate within Africa, which is often what is mentioned as a potential challenge for projects to be bankable. Is the regulatory framework really set? Does it provide a balanced allocation of risks? Are there ways to mitigate certain sovereign risks? Is money able to flow in and out of the country freely? There are many questions that investors have, and those are fair questions. Some countries have been able to address it and have made very successful, I would say, infrastructure program. I'm thinking about Egypt, Rwanda, for example, South Africa, when you look at the REIPP, the renewable program. but really enhancing the investment environment is one of the key issues. The other one is also mitigating the very important risk that the investors find. And these risks are sometimes, yes, mitigatable, sometimes they are not. And a way to somewhat address the discomfort of investors is to have African institutions or African investors also aligned, investing alongside international investors. And this is what Africa 50 does, which is really de facto mitigation. Our presence is somewhat reviewed as signal that projects are well prepared and the allocation of risk would be good. Finally, in terms of bankability, something that is quite important is the sponsors, those who have the technical ability to deliver the project. We have a number of financial investors, but when we look at technology risk, when you look at implementation risk, when you look at all those operational technical issues, it is very important to have sponsors that know how to deliver projects. And oftentimes, indeed, the challenge within projects in Africa is that sponsors may not be strong enough. So we really recommend, and this is something that Korean companies can bring, the expertise in delivering projects is critical. Finally, another element of bankability for African projects that we have seen is the size really matters. Small projects really are challenged. They're challenged because there is I would say, a fixed cost to implementing a project correctly. So the bigger the project, typically, the more the resources to address various challenges, be it legal, regulatory, etc. And that has quite an importance in projects being successful. So we really believe that this is critical for bankability. Finally, we would look at the role of DFIs, big development finance institutions like the African Development Bank, the World Bank, the IFC, and others, which provide a lot of support in certain key big projects. When you look at, for example, regional project that Africa is pushing, the question of guarantees, cross-country regulation and challenges, there is a need really for a support that is not a national support, but that is a bit of an overarching regional support. And that DFIs are really well equipped to provide. Now on to a few projects that we've done at Africa 50 to demonstrate how we contribute to bridge the infrastructure gap. Renewable energy is quite key for us, and it's right now a very important part of what the international agenda, when you think about COP26 and the change, the move to net zero emissions. We have been involved in Egypt alongside Scatec Solar. We have 400 megawatts of PV plants, and this was done quite quickly, 6 months to financial close, and about a year and a half to deliver these. Really an example of the combination of an international partner, a local Pan-African investor like Africa 50, and banks, DFI banks, coming together and delivering projects quite quickly. And Egypt also, as a government, played a very, very important role. We are also developing hydropower plant in Madagascar, the Volubi plant. Here, our partners are Colas. We also have mandated the IFC as MLA, and the idea is to move from HFO generation, diesel generation, to hydro generation. So quite important. Right now, also, we are building the Nachtigal hydropower plant, 420 megawatt. This is the largest privately financed hydropower plant in Africa. Our partners are EDF of France, the IFC, STOA, France, and the government. So once again, as I mentioned, really important to be part of a partnership, achieve bankability, and move quickly towards delivering projects. And governments have a very important role to play. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kofi, for such a powerful and insightful presentation. We note with deep interest that infrastructure gap represents a real business opportunity and that there is need for a continental and global commitment to deliver on the huge expectations with a view to unlocking the continental potential through value creation. We will now move to the second presentation, which is a pre-recorded video presentation by Mrs. Hyungjong Lee on the trends and strategies for investing in infrastructure using policy financing.
Good morning, Africa and distinguished audience. I'm sorry to introduce Korean policy financing through a video clip recorded in advance due to another equally important schedule of mine. On the other hand, I feel honored to share my experience and knowledge collected during my residence in Tanzania from 2017 to 2020. I am in charge of EDCF African projects now, back in Korea, and going to Ghana early next year to be a bridge between Africa and Korea, especially in the area of financing. My presentation, titled With African Infrastructure Investment Using Policy Finance, Trends and Strategies, consists of the following contents. Firstly, flow of development finance to developing countries. Secondly, various lenders. Thirdly, official development assistance. Fourthly, export credit. Fifth, sixth, and seventh, respectively, represents Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania cases. Eighthly, comparison of export credit among Tanzania, Ethiopia, and Kenya as of the year of 2017. Ninth and 10th are focusing on EDCF process or case in Egypt. Page 3. Firstly, as you see the graph in the left, funding flows to developing countries, purple or green colored areas representing personal remittance and private capital flows are increasing drastically, while other official flows or official development assistance remains steady or with little increase for the last 20 years from the year of 2000. Really, the weight of private funding has been increased from $182 billion in the year of 2010 to $648 billion in the year of 2015. On the contrast, official development assistance, ODA, has increased from $60 billion to $163 billion during the same period. Now, ODA is not the main source of funding in developing countries, but its role as a catalyst to attract private funding is still as important as developing countries pose relatively high investment risk to private funds. Page 4 shows various lenders worldwide. From the top to the bottom, you may notice the high side lenders are more familiar in Africa, while low-side lenders prefer projects in developed countries. In most African countries, development finance institutions such as World Bank, African Development Bank, Japanese JICA, French AFD, Germany KfW, Korean EDCF are active in developing or financing projects. Sometimes they work with commercial financial institutions to ensure the funding for mega-sized projects. These multilateral or bilateral development financing institutions belong to the orange-colored ODA funding, numbering as 1 in the previous page. Export credit agencies, as I call ECA from now on, are US Exim, Japanese JB or NEXI, Korean Exim Bank or K-Shore, Canada EDC, etc. These lenders' terms or conditions for their own financing are less favorable than ODA financing, but more favorable to borrowers than international commercial banks. ECA's terms and conditions have longer maturity, lower interest rates than commercial banks. ECA abide by OECD guidelines on export credit. International commercial banks, as I call ICB from now on, are 100% commercial-based financing providers. So its terms and conditions are less preferable to others, but mega-size funding or more flexibility with shorter period of project development are good characteristics supplementing ODA or ECA financings. Other lenders are local commercial banks, Islamic finance, and others. Sometimes ECA provides guarantees to reinforce the credibility for the project bonds. Page 5 shows more details on Official Development Assistance, ODA. Sometimes it is confused with International Development Cooperation. The main difference between ODA and International Development Cooperation is that ODA happens between governments or with multilateral development agencies, while International Development Cooperation includes all the assistance offered to developing countries, including non-government organization, NGO. There are various types of ODA modality. When you focus more on economic development, you can provide financing cooperation, concessional loan, based aid, or technical cooperation. On the other hand, you can provide humanitarian aid, usually grant-based aid, focusing on human basic rights. Page 6. Export finance rendered by ECA belongs to other official flows. The financing proposals are usually made by private parties. Their mission is to support domestic companies' overseas business or export. The modality of their supports includes loan, guarantee, or insurance. The main ECAs are US Exim, JB, China Exim, MIGA, SACE, and so on. ECA's financing has longer terms, usually up to 18 years, and accompanies ICB's financing with terms shorter than ECA financing as uncovered by ECA. When ECA provides guarantees or insurances rather than direct lending, it is called portion covered by ECA. When ICB provides loans covered by ECA, they assume the lending risk attributes not to the developing countries, but to the ECA themselves. Theoretically, so long as ECAs cover all financing of a specific project, international commercial banks can provide loans as much as the developing countries need. But in reality, ECA doesn't provide 100% of funding, as sticking to its role as catalyst for private financing. While I was in Africa in the year of 2017, I heard or saw the increase of export credit in Africa. Page 7, Ethiopian Railway Case. As you see in the table, there were 5 different lines looking for funding. The pink-colored case, Weldia to Awash, 375-kilometer long railway, needed around $1.2 billion. The construction contractor Yapı Merkezi lured Turkish ECA anchored financing with $0.9 billion arrangement by Deutsche Bank. Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland export credit agencies were involved. Therefore, this line's financing is mainly from ECA and additionally from ICB, while the railway from Addis Ababa to Djibouti financed mainly from Chinese soft loan, which can be sorted as ODA. Page 8, you can see more details and financing structure of this Weldia to Awash railway in the famous magazine called IFR. Swedish, Danish, Italian, and Swiss subcontractors participated in the construction with its respective ECA financing. $450 million were not covered by pure commercial financing, and $450 million were covered by ECA's 100% guarantee. ECA covered terms is 13 years door-to-door, while ECA not covered portion is 7 years door-to-door. All financing's borrower is Ministry of Finance of Ethiopia. Swedish EKN and Danish EKF provided 100% cover, whereas Switzerland SERV Trenchi provided 95% cover. Turkish Exim provided $300 million direct loan. In conclusion, this railway has been financed through other official flows and private capital flows. Page 9 shows the railway case in Kenya from Mombasa to Malaba. This table is a little outdated, but you can see that most of the railways are financed through China Exim. China Exim was very active in Kenyan railway financing through export credit or ODA. Page 10 shows the railway case in Tanzania. Now it is under construction from Dar es Salaam to Makutupora, with the main constructor is Yapı, Turkish company. So the main portion of financing are from Turkish export credit. Also, it was financed from other countries' export credit like Denmark or Switzerland under the role of Standard Chartered Bank's lead arranger role. Page 11 shows the financing details of ECA covered and not covered portions for the second phase from Morogoro to Makutupora. Overall, ECA covered portion provides longer terms and less margin spread than pure commercial portion. Also, in second, Kinereji gas plant, in the below table, you can find Japanese ECA JVIC's financing in the year of 2017. Page 12 shows the the comparison among Tanzania, Ethiopia, and Kenya cases. The main financing sources were export credit, as railway should accompany mega-site funding. Due to the fact that main contractor in both Tanzania and Ethiopia was Turkish Yapi, overall the funding sources were also from Turkey, while the main contractor in Kenya was China Road and Bridge Corporation. The funding source was from China. The host countries could construct the railway with the help of ECAs, though the terms were inferior from the perspective of the host countries than concessional loan, in other words, ODA. Page 13 shows Korean government concessional loan EDCF process. Firstly, through policy dialogue between the two countries, we identified the project to be financed by concessional loan. Secondly, under the cooperation between the two countries, we prepared the project in the form of concept paper and feasibility study. After this stage, Korean government completes the appraisal mission, assess, and approves the compromised specific project. It is followed by loan documentation, project implementation for 2 to 4 years on average, and finally, after the completion, we do the evaluation of the project in short-term outputs and in long-term outcomes. Page 14 shows EDCF's recent support for Egyptian rail project from Luxor to Haitham. We approved $250 million EDCF high concessional loan for the modernization of railway with co-financing with Economic Development Promotion Fund, low concessional loan of $60 million US. As you see the diagram of lever, policy financing with strong concessionality provides preferable terms and conditions to partner countries, but it has some weakness like not proper for mega-sized projects, takes much longer time to develop, and takes longer time in the negotiation between the two governments. Also, policy financing with strong commerciality provides less preferable terms and conditions to partner countries, but it can induce large-scale financings and has more overall flexibility. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed, Mrs. Lee, for your presentation. We now come to the panel discussion, and I think that the time is not on our side. So I will direct the first question to Mr. Konishita Naoshige. The African Development Bank, and your VP was here this morning, he has highlighted the huge infrastructure gap that Africa has today. And it is estimated that Africa needs about 130 to 170 billion per year, and that the infrastructure gap is huge and between 68 to 108 billion per year. So the bank has already invested a lot in infrastructure development in Africa. In 2017, it is estimated that the bank has invested 1.52 billion in infrastructure projects. So what can the bank do more to bridge Africa's infrastructure gap and to position infrastructure development as a driver of growth, integration, and jobs? You have the floor, sir.
Okay, thank you, Patrick, for these wonderful questions, and good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I think the key words to answer your question is partnership and credit enhancement, not just about liquidity, we are aiming to provide more financing to narrow infrastructure gap, including using our long-term financing. However, we have to make a leverage our financing, as typically we are only able to finance 1/3 of total project cost. In addition, we also face issues with the credit worthiness of the off-takers in the continent. As Kofi mentioned, it's actually to structure the project is very difficult. And we're trying to provide our own guarantee product, such as partial risk guarantee. However, we need partners who can actually bring more financing and a credit enhancement mechanism to make a bankable project. In this regard, partners such as Korea Exim Bank, EDCF, as well as K-Shore are extremely important for FTB. Not to mention Africa 50, who is able to structure the project, of course, Kofi. Yeah. And my further proposition to narrow the infrastructure gap is we should create more projects whose off-takers are outside of Africa. Those projects without necessity of credit enhancement, whether it's a gas project, mining project, or green hydrogen project, will lead to industrialization with more jobs and growth in Africa. And subsequently, bring a tax revenue and a dividend based on hard currency. Coral South floating LNG project in Mozambique is a typical successful project in which off-takers are outside of Africa. Korea Gas Corporation owns certain percentage of the project and also off-taker of the LNG from Mozambique. Let me also emphasize that Korea has brought innovative technology for this project, and I want to congratulate for the success of Samsung Heavy Industry, who built the first floating LNG facility in Africa recently. Patrick, I stop here, and probably there's more discussion is coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, I would now turn to Mr. Dongwon Shin, who is on site in Seoul. He will tell us about the experience of the International Contractor Association of Korea, which has been established 45 years ago as a promotion agency for construction industry abroad and the construction sector in general. Mr. Dongwoo Shin, you have the floor.
Hello, good afternoon. I am Shin Dong-woo, in charge of the Middle East and Africa Division of the International Contractors Association of Korea. It is a great pleasure for me to be taking part in this very meaningful event as we send off 2021. Now, they allow me to make my remarks based on the prepared slides. Now, the Korean construction companies are doing projects in 33 countries, total 222 companies in 830 projects worth $27.6 billion. By country, you see that Nigeria takes up over half of it with $15 billion, followed by Ghana and Angola, making up the top 3 countries of the Korean constructors projects. Of them, Ghana, Ethiopia, and Tanzania are the ODA priority partner countries. Now, for the ODA priority partner countries include Senegal, Rwanda, Uganda, Egypt, so total 7 countries who are the ODA priority partner countries to Korea. Now, in Africa, the Korean companies are building power plants and including the distribution and transmission grid. So Korean companies are taking part in the plant area, followed by the architecture and the civil engineering, including roads and bridges. Next is about the strategy and the competitiveness of the Korean companies. Now, first, the Korean contractors they have extensive experience by geography and field, providing both competitive price and quality at the same time. Globally, they had contracted for 14,000 projects all over the world, worth $880 billion in various fields of civil engineering, construction, plants, and consulting. And you see that for each country, of course, they have their specific circumstances, sometimes political instability, but the Korean contractors were able to complete 11,500 projects, and also the Korean contractors with diligent workers are known to complete the projects before the delivery time. And as you all know, Korea is one of the world's leading IT powerhouse. So the Korean contractors are also able to apply the IT technologies to the construction area, helping construction with the smart cities and the highly intelligent buildings, and also the railway information system, as well as the transport control system. Now, the Korean research centers and government organizations, as well as the private businesses, now they also build up and provide support for the training programs for the local companies' staff, and also to the partner countries' civil servants, as well as the client companies. For example, the Korea Construction Research Center is providing training program for civil engineering and construction engineering. And also KOICA is providing large programs through the ODA. And also the Seoul University is providing master's program to develop infrastructure development leaders. And also the private constructors provide OJT at the training centers, as well as specialized skills and technology. And through the cooperation with the local companies, Korean contractors also transfer technology on site that has been developed on site. For example, the Korea Construction Technology Research Institute, now they have developed these technologies through state commission research and demonstration projects, and such technologies are also being applied. Now, the Korean contractors, in order to maximize localization in the project countries, they try to locally source not only the human resources, but also the equipment and the materials. And they also try to have many visitation programs in order to minimize the cultural gap. Now, the Korean government also offers a number of funding facilities, and we can group them into largely four. First, the Korea International Cooperation Agency and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they provide grant for feasibility study, design, and construction management. Second is through the Korean Exim Bank and the Ministry of Economy and Finance, who provide EDCF, which provides loans. Third, the Ministry of Land and Infrastructure and Transport. Now, in order to support the Korean constructors' participation in infrastructure projects, they have been running the Global Infrastructure Fund, the GIF, since 2008. Last but not least is the Korea Overseas Infrastructure and Urban Development Corporation that has been established a few years ago that provides public-private partnership projects. And also, there is going to be the PIS Fund, the Plant Infrastructure Smart City Fund, to be installed with a size of $2.5 billion to support plant infrastructure and smart city projects. Last but not least, the Korean contractors Strategic competitiveness can be summed up in three keywords: technology, trustworthiness, and price. The Korean contractors, thanks to their extensive experience in the global infrastructure and also thanks to their unique construction techniques, are able to lower the cost and also shorten the period, and they continue to engage in research and development to increase their quality. And also the Korean contractors have strong trustworthiness and confidence thanks to their timeliness and quality assurance and performance assurance. And also, by applying value engineering, they provide reasonable and competitive attractiveness in terms of the pricing. And then also, let me add a few comments. Now, in the previous session, yes, Secretary General Mane has mentioned about the industrialization. And also, I do hope that the Korean contractors can contribute to Africa's industrialization as well. And also, in this session, Mr. Kofi has talked about the investment and development portfolio, and also the Rwanda ICT Technopark and the Madagascar hydropower generation. So some of these projects that are in the pipeline, I also hope that the Korean businesses will be given the opportunity to take part in them as well. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir. Thank you very much for the presentation that has highlighted the achievement of the Korean contractors in Africa and the need for these Korean contractors to engage more in building infrastructure and engaging even in Africa's industrialization. Now, let me turn to Mr. Sang Won-soo and call upon him to make his presentation that will highlight the importance of Korean construction companies, which is Daewoo Engineering Construction. Mr. Sang, you have the floor.
네, 안녕하십니까.
Hello, everyone. I am Seo Sang-won from the Daewoo ENC. And thank you very much for being here, everyone. And we are actually the only private company that is invited actually to today's forum. So today I'm going to talk about the track records that Daewoo built in the African market. Back in 1977, Daewoo ENC, we started our first project in Sudan, and that was the first project in Africa executed by a Korean contractor. And since the end of 1980s, we have been expanding our business activities in different countries in Africa. And up to now, Daewoo ENC has worked in 12 countries and completed 255 projects in Africa. So you can say that we have a huge track record in Africa, and we will have more opportunities in the region. If you look at the projects that we have taken previously, up until 1990s, we worked in Ghana, Cameroon, and Ivory Coast. So usually the Western African countries working on road projects. And I believe that at the time, just like other constructors, we were very much specialized in civil and building works. But since 2000, we have diversified our business portfolio. So from civil and building works to also oil and gas and energy business. So we have also successfully expanded our base. So base in oil-producing countries like Africa, like Libya, Nigeria, and Algeria. And we managed to actually secure a foothold in these markets. Looking back, since 2000, the competition was getting very severe because a lot of the Chinese and Turkish companies were entering African transportation infrastructure market. So there was a lot of competition in the engineering business as well. So we actually diversified our business portfolio from civil and building market to energy market, like oil and gas and power plants. And this strategy allowed us to grow our market power in Africa. And nevertheless, in spite of our business strategy, we have been executing until now very important transportation projects in Africa successfully. And we are proud to say that we have contributed greatly to the development of transportation in Africa. And I would like to share with you some of the projects like the Kazungula Bridge project in Botswana and Mekizewe Highway project in Ethiopia that were completed successfully. So this is the Kazungula Bridge project in Botswana. So the bridge is located in Zambezi River in the border between Botswana and Zambia. As you know, Botswana and Zambia are landlocked countries without ocean. So in order to be able to export a lot of natural resources, they had a wish to develop transportation system. So the Kazungula Bridge project was a very long cherished project between the two countries. And this project was the first extra-dosed bridge project that we were awarded in 2014. The total length is 923 meters, width of 18.5 meters, and it is indeed one of the largest infrastructure projects in Southern Africa. So despite the difficult working conditions and the COVID-19 pandemic, we have completed the construction on October 2020. And especially, we achieved 10 million hours without lost time injury. So before installing Kazungula Bridge, people had to cross the river with small barge named pontoon. And because of the bottlenecked situation, it took more than 1 week for customs clearance for the trucks. But now the crossing time is shortened to only 2 hours after completing this bridge. So we at Daewoo E&C expect that Kazungula Bridge will improve dramatically the transportation and logistics infrastructure in this region and create new employments in neighboring countries. Next is Mekizewe Highway in Ethiopia. So this is a project that took place in Ethiopia. It was financed by funds provided by Korea's Economic Development Corporation Fund, EDCF, from Kexim Bank. And we tendered and we were awarded the project in 2016 and completed it on May 2020. So Mekizewe Highway actually is 37 kilometers long with 4-lane highway, and it is one of the key parts of Mojo-Hawassa Highway project that links Ethiopia to Kenya. So by constructing the Mekizewe Highway, we believe that we have indeed contributed to the development of infrastructure in Ethiopia, who's making a lot of effort to expand logistics infrastructure by connecting roads with ports of its neighboring countries, including Kenya. So this project was our first project in Ethiopia. Of course, we had some difficulties and trial and errors, but we completed the construction on time. So through the Botswana Kazungula Bridge and Ethiopia Mekizewe Highway project, we expect that it will revive the trade in sub-Saharan region and boost regional economic growth. We were very honored to be able to improve the transportation and infrastructure in Africa through our projects. We take great pride in that. And of course, competition is becoming increasingly fiercer in the African region. So there are many Chinese and Turkish companies in Africa, and their market share is indeed rising. So to deal with this very difficult competition, we will try to enhance their competitiveness by enhancing the quality of our projects and engineering value, and we will keep on building trust from our clients by completing our projects on time. So to this end, we ask for your continuous support from the government, Kexim, as well as the institutions in Africa. Thank you very much.
Very much, sir, for the presentation and for the highlights of the important project that you have conducted in Africa. Now, let me turn to Mrs. Yong Kyu Jo, the head of Exim Bank Dar es Salaam, Representative Office. Madam, on a practical way, and in your view, what can be the optimal sources of funding of regional infrastructure in Africa based on the experience of Exim Bank? You have the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Patrick. Excellencies, distinguished guests, I'm Yoon Kyung-jo from Korea Exim Bank Tanzania office, and let me answer your question. For the lower middle income countries, ODA, I mean the concessional loan, is a good source of funding as it has the most preferable condition for the countries, and it becomes a catalyst for other funding sources such as a private sector fund. But ODA can have some weakness such as limited scale and long time for negotiation. In this case, export credit becomes a good source of mega projects, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. The second question directed to you is, what are the challenges that you encounter when it comes to financing infrastructure projects? And how can the experience of Exim Bank of Korea be leveraged to develop cross-border infrastructure projects in the context of the AfCFTA?
When we think about the AfCFTA, the infrastructure for logistics will be very important. For example, railway, roads, ports, these will be the most important means of the logistics. These kind of projects can be cross-border mega projects, I think. And technically, we'll have to divide the project by countries because we do the project by countries, but the bigger challenge will be the size of the project. As I mentioned before, ODA has the challenge when it comes to the fund scale. In this case, export credit will have to do some role to fund the project or provide guarantee to provide private sector funds. Also, we can think about co-financing with African Development Bank or other development partners. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me turn quickly to Mr. Kofi Kluse. Mr. Kofi, in your presentation, you have alluded to something that is quite interesting for us, which is the business environment. I would like to have your view, because it is widely agreed that investors today are attached to commonly environmental, social, and governmental factors, the so-called ESG. So when it comes to investing in infrastructure worldwide and in Africa in particular, how is the Africa 50 and also the ADB handling the issue to ensure that potential investors are navigating in a business-friendly environment when it comes to investing in infrastructure?
Thank you, Doctor. Yes, how do we ensure that our partners navigate, I would say, an investment environment that is attractive to them? One is being involved in projects which we believe are attractive to them, making sure that these projects are sustainable, that they meet bankability standards, that they meet, as you mentioned, ESG standards, and actually today, in a certain sense, both are quite linked. When you look at the power sector, where renewables are clearly the way to go. It is impossible to finance, to propose projects in coal or diesel HFO. This is not something that today is going to be done. So, one, selecting attractive projects. Two, making sure that on the government side, there is a real commitment to make the project. Typically, we are either off-takers in case of power, but also the different, I would say, sovereign guarantees that are linked to political risks and other things. So having the government agreeing and being quite aligned with the project, wanting the project to happen, having a champion in the government for the project is quite critical. Another element of attractiveness is the ability for Africa 50 to bridge or to manage discussion between governments and our partners. We've seen that governments are not necessarily well equipped to discuss with international parties, and it is reciprocal. International parties as well are often challenged. There's a question of language at times, and the language means not language stricto sensus, lingua, but also language in terms of what is expected, how we view things, we view investment, and our role is knowing both worlds to make sure that we can bridge that, and that is critical, especially in the case of cultural differences, and I think this is something we need to touch on when we think about Asia and Africa. Yes, there are commonalities, but there are also differences, and at times you can see that there is an opportunity, but that opportunity cannot be leveraged upon or is challenged because culturally the fit is not right. So any number of elements that I could mention would be those.
Thank you very much. Now we will turn to the last part of the session, which is the Q&A session with the audience in Seoul. I would like to be assisted by the Master of Ceremony, if that is possible, to take the questions from the floor and, lead us to the end of the session.
Yes, very well.
Ceremony.
Yes. Before we do close the panel discussion, we have a question from the floor. Would you like to take it?
Yes, I would like to, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My question is for Mr. Kofi Koloshe. As you know, Africa is constituted by 55 countries. The continent is very wide, and countries need more investments in infrastructure. What are the criteria, priorities of Africa 50 in funding infrastructures projects, taking in account the challenge of equity and gain interest between private and public funders? Thank you very much.
Yes, we have another question. Please
Yes,
hand over
we
the
can
mic.
take it.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Shafiq Rashadi, Ambassador of the Kingdom of Morocco. First of all, I have really enjoyed the value information highlighted during the presentation, and also the excellent quality and relevance of the moderation. Thank you so much. My point is related to this important expanding potential for value creation of African research infrastructure. Taking into consideration that a number of African countries attached special importance to the tripartite cooperation between Korea and the African partner, and Morocco is one of these countries. It has great experience in investing in Africa. He is bound by more than 1,000 cooperation agreements with his African partners, and has a significant investment made in more than 25 African countries. In this regard, my question is, to what extent does tripartite cooperation between Korea and African countries, I mean between Korea and the 54 African countries, received required attention? And can this tripartite cooperation, I mean this triangle, Korea, Africa, and any African countries among the 54 countries, can this tripartite cooperation be considered as a stimulating factor of Korea-Africa cooperation? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, shall we proceed now? Mr. Klose, you were called upon to respond to the first question. Can you attend to it, sir?
We have about 5 minutes left. Please answer your questions. Thank you.
Mr. Kluse is muted, please.
Can you please unmute your mic so we can hear from you? Currently, your mic is unmuted, so we can't hear any noise from you, any voice.
Okay, very good.
Okay, very
I
good.
think you
Thank
have
you.
muted it. Thanks a lot. Yes, no, thank you very much, sir, for your question. First, you allude to the fact that there is a lot to do, and that maybe we could prioritize. I would say first that indeed Africa 50 looks at contributing to implement projects in a certain way and having partnerships. But in no way, shape or form do we believe that we are the beginning and the end of the solution. We're just a part of it. So clearly for us, what is key is partnerships. There's a lot to do. We cannot do it on our own. There are different sectors, different countries, different priorities, and various stakeholders are better placed to do what needs to be done. So the idea is really to have to align with a given partner or given partners for specific projects to be able to push the implementation agenda. And our main role is really to be the bridge, the signal that a local capital, African capital, is backing this project. That's a very important signal. It means that on the side of the investors, the private investors, foreign investors, there is an African investor that has the same interest and alignment. So it is a question of partnership. Also, it is also a political question. What project get done? What are the priorities? We have various shareholders, and in our interactions with them, we tell them obviously that we may support a few limited number of projects, and that they should tell us which projects are the ones that they really want us to intervene on. So there is an element of managing resources. And I think we are quite blessed with the opportunity of being based in Morocco. And Morocco is a great place to do business, a great hub to move across Africa, both logistically, but also in terms of where it is situated. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the answer, and thank you to the Ambassador of Morocco for the excellent question that he has put forward. The response to that question is quite interesting because the African Union Commission is working hard to link, partners with member states and also businesses. So we'll take that question forward and respond to you very shortly. So, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, we have come to the end of our session. I do hope that you have enjoyed it. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the panelists for their excellent prestation, panelists on site and panelists online. We have, addressed the issue of infrastructure development in Africa, and I think there is need to strengthen the collaboration between Africa and Korea to make sure that we leverage on the expertise of both parties with a view to building the regional and continental infrastructure that are needed to unlock the potential of the AfCFTA. This, in our view, is a win-win partnership that we are building, and the African Union Commission, since the adoption of the of Agenda 2063, there is a new dynamism that is aimed at, fostering strategic partnerships that are win-win. So with this, I would like to thank you all for your presence and for your kind attention, you on site and you online. Thank you very much, and over to you, Madam.
Yes, thank you very much for sharing your very valuable insights with us. Please give a big round of applause to our moderator, presenter, and panelists. 네, 그리고 현장에 계신 우리 패널 여러분들께도 큰 박수 부탁드립니다.
Thank you very much to the panelists on site. Thank you so much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we will be concluding this session. Once again, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today, online and offline, despite the COVID-19 situation. Thank you very much for staying with us for the long hours. And we assure you that the Korea-Africa Business Forum will come back to you with an even more better and improved content to promote interest in the African business environment and to seek practical business cooperation between Korea and Africa. And last but not least, we are conducting a satisfaction survey for both the online and the offline participants. Those who are on site, you can find the questionnaire in the program book, so please fill it out and submit it to the registration desk. And then for the online participants, you can find the questionnaire URL on the real-time chat room. So with that, we conclude the 2021 Korea Africa Business Forum. Thank you very much.